This is Engadget. Here's what's happening in the world of technology. Today is July 1st. Starting today, small phone carriers must implement a special caller ID authentication tool that will help identify robocallers, the Federal Communication Commission announced. Known as stir-shaken, major carriers such as AT&T and Verizon, due to an FCC rule adopted in 2020, have had the same tool in place since last year. The agency initially gave small carriers a more generous deadline of June 2023 to adopt stir-shaken, but opted to fast-track adoption because it discovered a subset of these small voice service providers were originating an increasing quantity of illegal robocalls. But as a new report from the Electronic Privacy Information Center, EPIC, notes, merely flagging suspected robocalls is not enough to tackle the robocall industry. The problem is that applying the stir-shaken methodology requires only that originating providers apply a certification indicating how confident they are that the caller ID displayed in the calls is correct, the report states. Presumably, this means calls can still be routed through gateway carriers from abroad where the FCC's rules don't apply. But as EPIC also mentions, implementing stir-shaken may help identify spam callers, but there aren't any real metrics in place by which to measure how effective carriers are at stopping the calls. The FCC's pending regulatory efforts would continue to require only that providers have procedures in place to mitigate illegal robocalls, the report points out, with no meaningful and enforceable requirement that these procedures actually be effective. And air travel remains one of the largest contributors to global warming in the transportation sector, producing 915 million tons of CO2 worldwide in 2019 per ATAG. In an effort to usher in a more sustainable era of flight, NASA announced Thursday that it is seeking partners to develop technologies needed to shape a new generation of lower-emission, single-aisle airliners that passengers could see in airports in the 2030s. NASA is looking to fund the design, building, testing, and flying of large-scale demonstrators as part of its new announcement for Partnership Proposals program. Specifically, the agency seeks to reduce carbon emissions from aviation and ensure U.S. competitiveness in a high-demand area of aircraft design, single-aisle commercial airliners. In the coming years, global air mobility will continue to grow at a steady pace, and single-aisle aircraft will continue to carry the majority of that passenger traffic. Bob Pierce, NASA Associate Administrator for the Aeronautics Research Mission Directorate, said in Thursday's media release. Working with industry, NASA intends to seize this opportunity to meet our aggressive environmental goals while fostering continued global leadership of the U.S. aviation industry. This effort comes as part of the White House's U.S. Aviation Climate Action Plan, which itself aims to make aviation emissions carbon neutral by 2050. To help reach that deadline, NASA is planning to have these demonstrators ready by the end of the decade so that the lessons learned can be applied to the next generation of single-aisle aircraft coming in the 2030s. NASA plans to select at least one industry partner early next year, granting them funding and access to NASA facilities at Armstrong Flight Research Center in Edwards, California. If you want to catch the latest tech news as it's happening, check out Engadget.com or tune in again every weekday.
Spoken Layer.